Council President, we are now live.
Good. Okay. And good morning. We're going to get started. Had a few technical difficulties, but they have been resolved. So we'll start our process. Understand that the state law currently requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of every remote council session. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News and Inquirer on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come, and the clerk will please call the roll to take attendance. Members who are in attendance, please indicate by saying present. Please call the roll, Mr. Decker.
Councilwoman Bass.
Present.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Present.
Councilman Dom.
Present.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Present.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Present.
Councilman Green.
Present.
Councilwoman Kim. Councilman Heenan.
Present.
Councilman Johnson.
Present.
Councilman Jones.
Present.
Councilman O.
Present.
Councilman O'Neill.
Present.
Councilwoman Parker.
Present.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Present.
Councilman Squilla.
Present.
Councilman Thomas.
Present.
Council President Clark.
Thank you. We have clearly established a quorum. We will now come to order. Our next order of business would normally be our invocation, but despite the great need, there will be no invocation today. We will, however, observe a very brief moment of silent prayer for our city, its leaders, citizens during the current public health crisis. We now observe a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 4th, 2020. And the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 4th, 2020 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 4th, 2020 stand approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and our journal is approved. Our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to Councilwoman. Our next order of business is communication, and the clerk will please read the messages from the mayor and any other communications that he may have in his possession.
I have no communications, Mr. President.
None from the mayor. Thank you very much. And our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions that is being offered today by the members.
Like to be recognized. No person yet.
Councilman Parker offers one bill on behalf of Council President Clark entitled an ordinance amending section 20101 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Residence Requirements by restoring the requirement that no person shall be appointed as an employee in the civil service, including but not limited to police officers, unless he or she has been a bona fide resident of the city for at least 1 year prior to appointment.
The bill will be referred to the appropriate committee.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers one bill entitled an ordinance amending Title 17 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Contracts and Procurement by adding new Chapter 17-2300 entitled Public Hearing Required Prior to Execution of a Labor Agreement with City Workers represented by the Fraternal Order of Police or any other organization representing workers in the Philadelphia Police Department with respect to the workers' terms and conditions of employment by establishing certain definitions and requiring a public hearing within 30 days prior to the city entering into or amending a labor agreement with city workers represented by the Fraternal Order of Police.
Refer to committee.
Councilman Heenan offers two bills entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 9-2500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Fire Suppression System Workers to provide for additional licensing requirements for fire suppression system workers, and an ordinance amending Section 1303, subparagraph 4 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Authorization to Offer Exemption from Real Estate Taxes on New Construction of Residential Properties by modifying the start date of certain changes to tax abatements with respect to new residential construction.
Refer to committee.
Councilman Jones offers one bill entitled an ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the city of Philadelphia of a proposal set forth in a resolution approved by council, proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter relating to the creation of the Citizens Police Advisory Commission.
Refer to committee.
Councilman Jones offers a resolution, a privileged resolution, authorizing the Philadelphia City Council Committee on Legislative Oversight to hold public hearings examining issues that arose from the primary election mail-in ballot process and recommendations for necessary procedures to improve voter education and voter processes for the upcoming general election, including potential funding and staffing needs of the Philadelphia City Commissioner's Office.
Today's calendar.
And Councilman Jones offers a non-privileged resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to provide for the creation of a Citizens Police Oversight Commission.
Refer to committee.
Councilman Johnson offers an ordinance amending Title 10 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Regulation of Individual Conduct and Activity by adding a new Chapter 10-2500 entitled Prohibited Physical Contact by Peace Officers to prevent unnecessary death or injury via asphyxiation by prohibiting certain physical contact by peace officers.
Refer to committee.
Councilman Johnson offers a privileged resolution authorizing the Committee on Public Safety to hold public hearings to examine the community's priorities on the collective bargaining process for the Philadelphia Police Department.
Today's calendar.
Councilwoman Sanchez offers for Council President Clark on their behalf an ordinance authorizing city officials to file articles of incorporation to establish a nonprofit corporation that shall be called the Philadelphia Poverty Action Fund for the purpose of reducing poverty in Philadelphia.
Refer to committee.
Councilwoman Carolina Sanchez also offers a non-privileged resolution calling upon the city of Philadelphia to invest in a black stimulus package for our neighborhoods to include $500 million in capital investments for affordable housing and commercial
Next week's
corridors.
calendar. That'll be on next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Brooks offers 3 bills entitled an ordinance authorizing the procurement commissioner on behalf of the city to enter into a concession agreement with Bicycle Transit Systems Incorporated for the operation, maintenance, and expansion of a bicycle sharing system. And an ordinance amending Chapter 19-1100 of the Philadelphia Code, personal property taxes, to impose an annual tax on certain intangible personal property. And an ordinance amending Chapter 19-1300 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Real Estate Taxes, by providing for the termination of real estate tax abatements for certain improvements to or construction of certain residential, commercial, industrial, or other business properties.
Those 3 bills will be referred to committee. Mr. Decker, hold on 1 second. I believe Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson asked to be recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Decker, I just wanted to ensure that the correct title of the bill that I introduced was read today.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman. I'm actually having problems with my computer. Can you say that again?
Sure, I just wanted to ensure that the correct title for the bill that I introduced today was read.
Okay. Mr. Decker, I want to read that again.
An ordinance amending Title 17 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Contracts and Procurement by adding a new Chapter 17-2300 entitled Public Hearing Required prior to execution of a labor agreement with city workers represented by the Fraternal Order of Police with respect to the workers' terms and conditions of employment, by establishing certain definitions and requiring a public hearing within 30 days prior to the city entering into or amending a labor agreement with city workers represented by the Fraternal Order of Police.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Clerk, and thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Decker, please proceed.
Mr. President, this is Councilmember Helen Gim. I just want to establish that I'm also present today.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Yes. Good morning.
Councilwoman Gautier offers an ordinance authorizing Gojo Incorporated to install, own, and maintain a proposed sidewalk cafe at 4536 through 40 Baltimore Avenue.
For the committee?
Councilman O'Neill offers an ordinance renaming and designating Chalfont Playground in Northeast Philadelphia as the Corporal Jimmy O'Connor Memorial Playground.
For the committee?
Councilman Squilla offers an ordinance authorizing the overnight truck parking for the commercial vehicle of Vincent Capello, owner and operator of Vinnie's Fruit and Produce, located in the right-of-way on the north side of Dickinson Street between 9th and 10th Street, and accepting Mr. Capello from certain provisions of Section 29203 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Street Vendors, and certain provisions of Section 12901 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Stopping, Standing, or Parking, and entitled Stopping, Standing, or Parking Prohibited at Certain Places.
For the committee?
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered by the members today, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. The next order of business is reports from committee, and the chair recognizes Councilman Green for a report from the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Finance reports out 7 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, would you please read the report?
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Finance, to which is referred Bill Number 200296, entitled an ordinance constituting the 15th supplemental ordinance to the General Gas Works Revenue Bond Ordinance of 1998, the 1998 General Ordinance, authorizing the City of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to sell, either a public or private sale, one or more series of Gas Works Revenue Bonds and Gas Works Revenue Bonds to refund such bonds. And Bill number 200297, entitled an ordinance constituting the 23rd supplemental ordinance to the restated general water and wastewater revenue bond ordinance of 1989 as supplemented, authorizing the bond committee to issue and sell one or more series of tax-exempt or taxable water and wastewater refunding revenue bonds and revenue refunding bonds. And Bill number 200298, entitled an ordinance authorizing the bond committee to sell bonds at public or private negotiated sale, to provide funds toward various capital municipal purposes, providing for appropriations to the sinking fund commission for the payment of such bonds, authorizing agreements to provide credit or payment or liquidity sources for the bonds in connection with issuance of the bonds, and certain other actions. And Bill number 200299, entitled an ordinance authorizing the city treasurer on behalf of the city to enter into an amendment agreement with Citizens Bank of Pennsylvania for provision of payroll banking services to the city. And Bill number 200300, entitled an ordinance approving the fiscal year 2021 capital budget, providing for expenditures for the capital purposes of the Philadelphia Gas Works, including the supplying of funds in connection therewith, subject to certain constraints and conditions. And Bill number 200329, entitled an ordinance approving a substantial amendment to the Annual Action Plan 2019-2020 to add $40,410,779 in federal coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security act CARES funding. And Bill number 200330, entitled an ordinance authorizing the Director of Planning and Development on behalf of the city to file applications with the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for a community development block grant, provide applications to participate in the Home Investment Partnership Program and the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, and to apply for Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS grant, and to file applications with the Commonwealth to obtain grants under the Act of April 12, 1956 to prevent and eliminate blight. Respectfully reports it has considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. The chair again recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill numbers 200296, 200297, 200298, 200299, 200300, 200329, and 200330.
Second.
Thank you. It is moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 200296, 200297, 200298, 200299, 200300, 200329, and 200330. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Woman Garfier for a report from the Committee of Housing, Neighborhood and Development, and the Homeless.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless reports out 5 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Mr. Decker, will you please read the report?
The Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless, to which is referred bill number 200294, entitled an ordinance amending various sections of the Philadelphia Code to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the novel coronavirus of 2019 pandemic and otherwise, including providing for an eviction diversion program. And bill number 200295, entitled an ordinance amending various sections of the Philadelphia Code to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the novel coronavirus of 2019 pandemic and otherwise, including providing for temporary eviction relief. And bill number 200302, entitled an ordinance amending various sections of the Philadelphia Code to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the novel coronavirus of 2019 pandemic and otherwise, including providing for the temporary waiver of certain fees. And bill number 200304, entitled an ordinance amending various sections of the Philadelphia Code to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the coronavirus of 2019 pandemic and otherwise, including providing for relief to tenants who have been illegally locked out of their residences. And bill number 200305, entitled an ordinance amending various sections of the Philadelphia Code to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the novel coronavirus of 2019 pandemic and otherwise, including providing for payment agreements for tenants with a certified financial hardship related to COVID-19. Respectfully reports it has considered and amended the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill numbers 200294, 200295, 200302, 200304, and 200305.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 200294, 200295, 200302, 200304, and 200305. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. And calendar today. Next order of business is consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just reported from committee with suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had a first reading. All of those bills will be placed on a second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. There are no additional bills on our first reading calendar today, so we are only considering those legislative matters of the second reading and final passage calendars that directly pertain to the COVID-19 crisis, given the limitations as it relates to our ability and staffing and other issues and time. There's only one such matter on the calendar. The proud sponsor of that matter has already communicated their desire to have it considered today. I therefore recognize Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up that particular legislative matter from the second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolution is being called up from the second reading and final passage calendar today, number 200356. All other resolutions and bills are being held.
Considering the resolution, we consider public comment as follows. Under normal circumstances, public comment must concern matters on the second reading and final action at the session of council. Speaker on any of those matters must sign up in order to testify. You must call in 215-686-3406 by 5 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for public comment. When you call, we will take your name, phone number, the number of the legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support or against the legislation, and add you to the list. We will telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meeting. Under ideal circumstances, you will have a time limit. However, time has significant constraints in terms of what we can do remotely. And so today, we will be limited to 2 minutes. In order to be fair, all those wishing to speak, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit. Once invited to the meeting and asked to begin testimony, a timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony, and when there are 30 seconds remaining to your time, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks. Shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Decker, why don't we just go and call the first individual to testify today. And remember, the comment is limited to the matter called up by Councilwoman Parker, resolution number 200356. And speakers that have signed up to speak on this resolution will be invited to speak at this meeting. Mr. Decker?
And I have no speakers to speak on resolution 200356.
That's a pretty long comment on my behalf not to have a speaker, but the law requires that I do this. Thank you very much. We will now consider the final passage calendar. So, Mr. Decker, can you please call and read the title of resolution number 200356?
A resolution encouraging the city of Philadelphia to support local business and shorten the supply chain by locally sourcing COVID-19 related equipment, supplies, and services from local businesses and suppliers in response to the COVID-19 pandemic emergency.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. I would like to note that Councilman Heenan is having challenges with his internet service, as am I, but he would like to be reported as being present. Mr. Decker, you have any additional?
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia City Council Committee on Legislative Oversight to hold public hearings examining issues that arose from the primary election mail-in ballot process and recommendations for necessary procedures to improve voter education and voter processes for the upcoming general election, including potential funding and staffing needs of the Philadelphia City Commissioner's Office, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of that resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Public Safety to hold hearings to examine the community's priorities on the collective bargaining process for the Philadelphia Police Department, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
I'm sorry. I was delayed. My computer is actually, so can you say that again? I'm
There are
having
no
some
other
freeze up.
resolutions. There are no other resolutions, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Decker. Prior to recognizing members regarding speeches, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft's Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. And that chat feature must only be used for this particular purpose. With that said, are there any speeches on the part of the minority?
Council President, I would like to be recognized. This is Councilmember Brooks.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks.
Thank you so much. Today, I am proud to introduce 3 bills. The first is the Indigo Bike Share Bill that will expand access to green, safe form of transportation for Philadelphians at a time when not all Philadelphia residents feel safe using public transportation. The other 2 bills are part of what I am calling the People's Proposal, legislation that will ensure that everyone in this city is paying their fair share. The People's Proposal includes a bill to end the 10-year tax abatement and a bill to reintroduce the intangible personal property tax. This legislation not only allows the city to collect more revenue through equitable spreading of responsibility across city residents, it also advances racial equity. For years, working class and poor communities of color have been starved of wealth and resources due to systemic racism. Home ownership is one of the main determinants of wealth. And through redlining, gentrification, evictions, and foreclosures, many Black communities have been deprived of this opportunity. The current tax abatement accelerates gentrification, primarily benefits luxury developers and wealthy newcomers, many of whom are white. This drives up the cost for families that have lived in Black and brown communities for generations. Last year, Council passed a bill amending the tax abatement and is not set to go into effect till the end of this year. The decrease in the abatement won't even really be felt until 2022. Some are arguing that we should push it back another year. While I know Council has already discussed this issue, but the world has changed, and we're in a different place than we were 6 months ago. And if we're truly committed to dismantling oppression in Philadelphia, we must respond to the structural racism with structural changes. And frankly, we cannot afford to repeal a tax abatement that benefits Philadelphia's wealthiest residents while starving our public schools of critical resources. To me, it does not make sense to be making huge cuts to city services when we are giving a huge tax break to the most affluent among us. The second part of the People's Proposal is a bill that requires Philadelphia residents to pay taxes on stocks, bonds, and comparable financial assets. The story of our city for the past decade is that the wealthy get wealthier while the poor get poorer. Our financial system allows extreme wealth to accrue exponentially, which is part of why Philadelphia has the third largest income gap in the country. This tax existed for most of the 20th century, but it was repealed in 1997. It raised approximately $17 million in its last year, with little to no enforcement against non-payers. Given the tripling of stock values over the past 25 years, we believe this tax has the potential to raise around $50 million each year, perhaps much more if tax enforcement measures are ramped up. Although many people are suffering from unemployment, certain people are making money off this pandemic. This includes stocks and bonds. And instead of asking communities who have been paying for generations to pay more, it's time to look at people who pay nothing to start contributing their fair share. As we wrap up budget discussions, we should consider everything available to us. And austerity is not our only option. I was glad to see my colleagues, Council members Maria Quiñones Sanchez and Jones, introducing a resolution echoing my calls for a Black stimulus. We definitely need a Black stimulus right now. And the People's Proposal is how we can pay for it. We have the ability to levy small taxes on the extreme wealth that exists in our city and invest in communities that have the greatest need. We have the ability to fund education, libraries, recreation centers, affordable housing, and job opportunities. Programs that keep our city safe and support our young people when they need it the most. Our city faces an ongoing public health crisis, an economic recession, massive unemployment, and generations of racism. And people have a hunger for change. I was elected so that our movements could have a seat at the table. And I'm bringing these proposals to you because I believe they will benefit Philadelphia's poor and working class, not just lobbyists, not just developers or wealthy special interest groups. It is time for us as legislators to rise to meet the moment with bold actions that truly benefit the people of Philadelphia. And I want to thank Councilmember Helen Gem for co-sponsoring both of these bills and Councilmember Jamie Gautier for co-sponsoring the bill to end the tax abatement. Thank you so much, Council President, for allowing me this opportunity, and have a great day.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. These are unusual times. We're doing this remotely, and I can't just walk up to your office like I love to do when you're available to have these conversations. So I'm going to ask for your, for your forgiveness in just kind of doing it this way. We've gone through the budget. I know there's a lot of concerns about it. I've kind of looked at it as best I can, and I am going to introduce on Monday an amendment to the budget to include the things that I think should be included that we can include. And I'm going to give my basis for that because I am looking for co-sponsors and I'm looking for support, and I'm letting the public know that this is what I think is feasible. The information that we've got from the administration appears to me, after careful consideration and analysis, to be missing certain funds. And perhaps they have some plans for it, but they didn't say that they do. So again, if they're not claiming the money, I think it's up for spending. I'm proposing in my amendment $21 million that will do the following. $8.7 million to Parks and Rec, and an additional $6.2 million to the library to preserve staff position and restore some core services. $10 million will be taken from unspent money from the soda tax, which was given to DHS for pre-K, but because pre-K hasn't been operating, they have the savings, just like the school district by not operating, saved $51 million. So this money is available and was not identified to us. In addition, the city has saved money as well, and they have yet to tell us about that. But there is a balance of $11 million that I would like to reallocate from the recession fund to restore the Office of Arts and Creative Economy fully restore it. It's a $4.1 million for the office and for the Philadelphia Cultural Fund, which is $3.1 million, $3.2 million roughly. $1.5 million to the Office of Commerce to restore staff cuts that would be used to manage grant funds devoted to restoring the city's economy. The budget cut includes, cutting money that actually produces money and then produces more money. That's not everything, but I think roughly there is according to the controller and our analysis, between about $50 and $75 million that were not accounted for by the administration. And I know they need rainy day funds and reserves, but I believe that these funds will be better spent doing the public good. I do believe that we are faced primarily with the issue of dealing with law enforcement, restructuring police, and delivering to everyone high-quality police services, regardless of who they are, where they live, and in particular, taking this opportunity to deal with racism, bias, particularly in the police department. But I'm a believer that we have a great opportunity with the power of the people and our new police commissioner, our first African-American female commissioner who has testified yesterday. And we will go through the rest of the budget process, Council President, with everyone, but I will introduce that on Monday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. And that reminds us that we have a very short window to conclude our budget process, so you will be getting those phone calls, every member, as opposed to the traditional way of sitting down on the one-on-one. Unfortunately, not able to do that, but in lieu of that, we will be reaching out very shortly to get a sense of where everybody is, because June 25th will be the final date. And actually, next week, when we have our meeting to vote bills out of committee, is really the real timeline. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Council President. Today, Council President, I introduce one bill and one resolution. The first bill states, "Let Philly breathe, let Philly breathe, let Philly breathe." The bill outlaws physical contact by law enforcement officials that could make it difficult or impossible for a citizen to breathe. What happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis should never have happened, and we want to be on the forefront to make sure that it doesn't happen here in the city of Philadelphia. Currently, the City of Philadelphia Police Department policy does not prohibit the tactic used against George Floyd. This bill will fix that problem. Council President, I also introduced a resolution that will ensure that there is a public opportunity to make its priorities and concerns known before the bargaining process takes place for the upcoming Philadelphia Police Department contract. We all know that the contract dictates many aspects of transparency and accountability, so public input is essential. I believe wholeheartedly that the bills that we introduced today, all of us, regarding police reform, will build the trust between members of the Philadelphia Police Department and citizens here in the city of Philadelphia, and it will go a long way toward making our city a safer city. Thank you very much, Council President, and I look forward to working with you on these reforms.
Thank you, guys. Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just wanted to send a special shout out this morning to SEPTA. This morning, I had the opportunity to join SEPTA General Manager Leslie Richards, Montgomery County Commissioner and Vice Chair of the SEPTA Board, Ken Lawrence, at the Fern Rock train station in the 9th Councilmatic District. And for those who have been paying attention to the stats relative to COVID-19 in the city of Philadelphia, you'll note that some of the zip codes that have been hit hardest are in the 9th District, and so we were right near zip code 19126. And it was a very important announcement, Mr. President, because SEPTA announced today that it formed a direct partnership with the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium. And this is extremely important from a leadership perspective, although quasi-government, because SEPTA has employed the services of the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium to test their workers. To make sure testing is available. And we know that someone's personal health is a private matter. And the trust that the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium has earned and the services that it provided to the people that they have tested, it is to be commended. So I want to say for the record, I want to thank Ken Lawrence, again, Montgomery County Commissioner and Vice Chair of the SEPTA Board. He was the person who led the effort. He was the chief connector. In his role as Vice Chair of the SEPTA Board, to connect them to SEPTA General Manager Leslie Richards. And Leslie is the new General Manager and former Secretary of Transportation for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But they made that connection possible. And so it's not enough to just say, that we support the Black doctors, and Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson, Councilwoman Bass, Councilman Johnson, all members, all of our colleagues, yourself, Mr. President, who've expressed our support for the Black doctors. It's extremely important, but this act by SEPTA could lead the effort for others in the private sector to employ the services of the consortium, and that is important. I do also want to note for the record that although it took us a little time to get started, I want to give a special thanks to Mayor Kenney, along with Dr. Farley, for announcing that the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium is the first to receive funding via the City of Philadelphia's RFP relative to testing. I think this is a good start, and I appreciate them making this happen. There's no wrong time to do the right thing, but we can't stop there. We have $92 million in a CDC grant that the City of Philadelphia has received for testing and contact tracing, and we need to be very intentional about using the services of African-American owned and operated direct service providers in the health and mental health field to contact tracers who can work in our communities. They have the cultural competency and technical capacity to do so, and we will be watching very closely to ensure that the City of Philadelphia is not doing business as usual. Thanks so much, Mr. President, for your time.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. Now, you might think that concept may have come from somebody protesting today. It comes from Benjamin Franklin. Every now and then, there is a sea change, that things will never, ever, ever be the same again. I remember it after 9/11. I remember it during the Me Too movement. And I remember it now under I Can't Breathe and what we've been going through the last 20 days. If you don't believe it's a sea change, know that Merriam-Webster, the dictionary, is changing the definition of racism. They're changing it to include long-term systemic injustices that happen to a people. I want to say that I'm very proud of those who I serve with in council. We don't all come from the same neighborhoods. We didn't all have the same experiences. But like Benjamin Franklin, we are all coming together at the same point in time to make that change. I want to give a shout out to you, Mr. President, for including me on the trip to Camden, who is now being touted as the birthplace of modern policing and community policing. Before there was a pandemic, before there was a televised lynching, we went over there to look at how things should be done. And I'm thankful for that experience. I want to say also that the package of legislation that was proposed today is not an indictment on the Philadelphia Police Department. All of us know that 98% of the individuals that protect and serve are good individuals that follow the rules and regulations of engagement. But what we have to do is listen to the public. I was in an environment where we were just talking about our experiences. Similar to Me Too, when it broke out, people started identifying with points in their life. When they experienced Me Too, it happened also with I Can't Breathe. I'm hearing senior citizens talk about when they were younger, from generations gone by. I'm talking about people that are my contemporaries that say, yeah, I was driving while black and this happened to me. And people with tears in their eyes reliving those moments. The best of them was captured in a poem. And it says, I can't. And I'm not a poet, so bear with me. I can't look black. I can't talk black. I can't drive while black. I can't act black. I can't dress black. I can't think black. I can't be educated black. I do not have equal pay because I'm black. I can't walk in the park black. I can't even look at birds while black. I can't breathe. I think that kind of summarized how the sea change is affecting us all. So when we hear these pieces of legislation, when we hear people who are unaffected being as incensed as people who have lived through it all their life, you can tell it's a moment of time that we need to carpe diem, seize the moment, and act upon it legislatively. I told a group of school teachers, predominantly white school teachers, that teach in my district, and we were on a Zoom call, and they were crying, I mean literally tears, about wanting to do more, wanting to protest, and I suggested to them, I said, you don't always get to choose your battlefield, but you can choose to do battle wherever you are. Educate those babies that come before you so that there is no more school to prison pipeline. And then you will have done your part. So I'm proud of our organization. I'm proud of where our city is going. We have to have difficult conversations. Some of our freshmen are forcing us to have them, and I'm proud of them too. But I'm also proud of all of the council to have these difficult conversations at this point in time to make a difference. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. I believe Councilman O and then Councilman Johnson wanted to come back for a moment. Councilman O?
Thank you very much, Council President. Very briefly, I forgot to mention one of the things, which was to fully restore the funding that was in the budget for the African American History Museum. I think a lot of people really want that. It isn't a large amount of money, and we can do that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. And Councilman Johnson, I believe you indicated that you want to come back briefly.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I also just second David Owens' support of the African American Museum. I know a constituent talked to me yesterday that there was a protest that started at the Octavius Cato statue with the Divine Nine, and it actually ended up at the African American Museum, which is actually zero out of our budget. And so we definitely want to make sure we support that museum. Council President, I just want to take a moment and thank all of my colleagues who took time out of their schedule, gave me back feedback, gave me recommendations regarding the letter of reforms that we sent over to the administration regarding the Philadelphia Police Department. And so I just wanted to take a moment and to thank all of the council members, thank their staff, just for their feedback, recommendation. Thank you, Council President, as well, for your support and guidance to the process, as well as Chairman of Public Safety, Councilman Curtis Jones. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. That appears to conclude the speeches. With that, I would like to recognize Councilman Jones for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, June 18th, 2020 at 10 a.m.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably second that council stand adjourned until Thursday, June 18th, 2020, 10 a.m. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you all very much. Be prepared to get that phone call again about the offices as we move back into our city offices, both in City Hall and those that you that have district office. So please give some thought to that over the next day or two. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.